don't like to call it rule, 80-20 guideline, I guess, is like my favorite thing ever because I think it gives people just enough freedom in their nutrition that they can stay on track. 80-20 is basically if you look at your whole week, 80% of the time you're choosing good, nutritious, healthy, nutrient dense foods. And then 20% of the time you're choosing things out of pure joy and satisfaction. So
welcome everyone to our Tuesday Live after the long weekend. And today we're going to be chatting about our 10 tips for weight loss. Now, there are going to be more than just these 10 tips. And these aren't, the only things we talk about when we coach clients. And I think sometimes me and Tom specifically, we tend to dive really deep into the mindset stuff. And we forget to talk about just the simple, actual things that we help our clients with, or people can start implementing on their own to lose weight. Because that is a majority of people's goal, is to lose weight and feel healthier and be more functional that way. Mm-hmm. So I'll start it off. The first, why we all kind of came up with this together before we hopped on here. The first one I'm going to talk about is the basic caloric deficit, like eating. I'm, come on, Matthew. You might have to eat less and feel a little hungry than you're used to lose weight. That was really hard for me.
I can simplify that for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like eating fewer calories than what your body not needs, but in order to be in a deficit.
Yes.
From what your body works. Your basal metabolic rate.
Eat enough food to maintain activity level and optimize your activity level without gaining fat is essentially what we're looking at there. And we tend to err on the side of caution because there's a lot of extreme diets. And that's why we talk about that so much, because that's the second point before I pass it on there, is avoid yo-yoing, which means getting extreme and then your body craves a bunch of stuff and then having to go the other way. That's what we talk about so much, about the mindset and the relationship around food in terms of getting people healthy and fit.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
you want me to tackle that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, in terms of weight loss, it's kind of just like, that's just science. Like, in order to lose weight, you have to be in a bit of a deficit. That just is the way that it is. I don't think that means you always have to be hungry, but you have to be wise about the foods that you're choosing to eat, because you have to choose the ones that are going to fill you up, even if you're trying to be in a deficit. So just to add on to that, but yeah, avoid yo-yo dieting. So oftentimes what happens when we want to lose weight is we find like the most exciting, sexy diet that we can come up with or think of. And we think that we want to be challenged. We think we want to have this terrible experience of restriction and saying no to foods because that's what like feels really good to us at first, or we feel like we're doing a good job if we're saying no to foods or, being really strict. But in reality, weight loss should be a long-term approach, especially if you have quite a bit to lose. So we need to look at it in a way of like, yeah, maybe it's not as like exciting or sexy, or like you're not going to have to restrict a ton of things, but that's going to help you in the longevity of your program or in your ability to stay on track. So it's going to sound, your weight loss program should be really boring. Basically, it should be like the simple things done well. It doesn't need to be like, you're going to drink this watermelon celery juice and then nothing for 24 hours and then whatever. Like, I just made that up, but because that's just going to force you into a yo-yo phase. So you're going to be starving and then you're going to probably want to eat everything and you'll be so hungry. You'll have very limited ability to say no to maybe those things that then add weight. So that was a long explanation of yo-yo dieting, but that's what I think.
Love it. Put it on the board. Tom?
Number 3.
Next I know we had on there, they're kind of points 2 or 3 and 4, I guess, but eating meat and vegetables. And that's a very common one. Obviously, that I'm sure most people know, but the reason behind it is, well, vegetables themselves have a lot of those micronutrients, right, that we don't get necessarily from a lot of other foods. So they're very nutrient dense, and so is protein. And because they are more nutrient dense, they keep us fuller for a little bit longer without being too high in actual caloric intake. So like Jaleesa said, they can help you stay in that kind of caloric deficit as well. And so that those are two very important ones that can keep you fuller for longer. You usually have to chew them, and chewing is one of those things that actually helps you feel fuller when you're eating. And it's not like a watermelon, what'd you say, watermelon celery juice, nothing like that. So that's a very important.
Yeah.
And I think like we've kind of touched on a bunch of nutrition stuff, and we're going to go into other tips as well. But like we are a CrossFit gym, and CrossFit came up with this definition of fitness in 100 words. I don't know how long ago now, right? But basically, the first couple sentences is eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruits, little starch, and no sugars, I believe. And then the second sentence is like keep intake levels to support exercise or support fitness, but not body fat. So it's like that's what it is. Like that's in the simplified form is.
Did Tom freeze on your end too?
Yeah, Tom has like really excited hands.
Tom, you're frozen. But he basically just said there, eat meats, vegetables, some nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. And I mean, to say an absolute no to sugar, we have sugar. We let our coaching clients have these things. But if you're going for optimal fitness, that's what we're looking at essentially.
Yeah, I think if you were like a perfect human, like without emotion, without, special occasions, without enjoying things, that would be like the perfect prescription for, hi, Tom.
Hey, Tom, welcome back.
For healthy nutrition. However, it doesn't always take into account, like, we're also just like average human beings who are looking for general health, not necessarily CrossFit athletes who are going to the games or Olympic athletes or whatever. So that is the gold standard.
Yep.
Finish that off for you, Tom. You were doing a great.
Tom, do you have anything to add on there?
I don't know where I left off, so I don't know where
you were. You're caught like this. Your hands are.
You're really excited about something.
The other one I know, Tom, you had mentioned was managing stress.
Yeah, that's a really big one. Like stress in small doses, I think we've talked about, is actually quite beneficial for you because it allows you to adapt and become fitter and stronger. Yeah. But when stress is like chronically placed on your body, whether that be from either not resting well enough, not having good recovery from in a nutrition standpoint, or mental recovery as well. Like if you're constantly stressed at work, or I know this has happened to a lot of people, like in really busy like cities as well. Like you're just always going from one thing to the next. There's a ton of commotion everywhere. And so your cortisol levels are kind of just always elevated. Mm-hmm. And when our cortisol levels are constantly elevated, it gets really, really hard to drop any weight, really. So your body is kind of holding on to that because it's not sure when it's going to need to utilize that energy. And so that's a very confusing situation for your body as well. So managing stress, we talk about a lot of different strategies for that, but practicing some mindfulness, prioritizing your sleep. We've already talked about nutrition quite a bit as well. Some people journal. It's totally up to you. Like whatever you find helps to relax you the most, which is quite hard. My wife and I were talking about this. She's like, I don't know what actually like replenishes me. I'm not sure yet. So it might take a little while, but it's an important step nonetheless.
Yep. Yeah. And you touched on a hormone there too. And ghrelin is another hormone, which is tied to sleep as well, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think
you guys,
ghrelin's a hunger thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's tied to if you don't get enough sleep, or if it doesn't kind of shut off essentially, right? So that's why part of the reason why people who have a hard time sleeping, they tend to eat more food. I mean, out of boredom too, I'm sure, but that hormone isn't doing its proper function. Mm-hmm. You're going to say something, Jaleesa?
I lost it when you said ghrelin because I always just think of it as like gremlin, and then I was laughing in my head.
Squirrel.
Gremlin hormone, and then I can't remember what I was going to say. So no, I'm good.
Okay, 80-20. You want to talk about 80-20, Jaleesa?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so 80-20, I don't like to call it rule, 80-20 guideline, I guess, is like my favorite thing ever because I think it gives people a little bit, just enough freedom in their nutrition that they can stay on track, but it's still like it's pretty strict when you think about only 20%. So 80-20 is basically if you look at your whole week as a whole, your whole week as a whole, 80% of the time you're choosing good, nutritious, healthy, nutrient dense foods. And then 20% of the time you're choosing things out of pure joy and satisfaction. So that would likely be our treats and sweets or things that maybe aren't giving us actual nutritional value, but are like meaningful and important to us. We can still have the freedom to enjoy celebrations or experiences or go out for a nice dinner or have a glass of wine or two or whatever. I can't do math, especially under pressure, but if you like times, let's say you eat 3 meals and 3 snacks in a day, if you times that by 7 and then do the thing where you divide whatever 20% of that is, however many meals or snacks that is. I should do that so I can actually talk about that. It just gives you a lot more freedom to still enjoy life and not feel like you're so restricted to only vegetables and protein and rice or whatever, that you just like give up or feel like you have one treat and then you say fell off the proverbial wagon and then you have to start over. So the 80-20 is like my favorite thing.
8.4 meals or snacks.
Oh,
snacks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You get 8.4 little meals of joy throughout the week. And that's a lot actually when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Think about that a little bit more. That's including snacks. That could sound like you could just have like 8 meals where you don't think about nutrition at all, which I don't think that's quite what I'm trying to say. So let's subtract that whole part where I said we should do the math on this, and I'm going to think of a better way of talking about that.
You don't actually want the math. Gotcha.
I don't.
The next one is protein. And Tom, you talked about it a bit there with the CrossFit. Talks about meats and vegetables, meat being a predominant source. I mean, you can get it from vegetables too, but predominantly you have all the micronutrients in there in meats and eggs and things like that. So that helps you build more muscle. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn just by living and breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And it, what's thermogenesis? I said this last time, a couple ones ago, but it takes more energy to digest protein. There's the next one. The other one we're going to talk about is exercise. Tom?
Yeah. Well, I think in general, there's like all those guidelines, I guess, for how much physical activity you should be getting per week. And I think the Canadian guideline is like 150 minutes of, moderate to vigorous activity each and every week. So 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Or that's why we often talk to our members in our base rate membership allows you to come 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. So if you are able to get into the gym 3 times a week, that's what we talk about in our transformation program as well. 3 days a week, anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes, depending on the workout. But if you know anything about CrossFit style workouts anyway, you know that doesn't mean that you need to be going at 100% for 60 minutes long. That would be, we don't want to do that 3 days a week. So it's finding a balance at the start, especially in building up the volume. Part of our program as well is just getting some extra daily movement in every single day for 15, 20 minutes, whatever you want to start with, whether that be walking, biking, swimming, any type of thing that you enjoy, playing sports. Lots of other things. Exercise, I think, well, maybe we should switch that in for activity, because I think exercise is that's like a planned time, I think, where you go in and you're very, very intentional about what you are doing in the gym or outside of the gym, activity can be much more free flowing, and maybe it's activity with your kids or, getting outside, going for a hike, stuff like that. So, but in general, if you think about that 150 minutes per week is kind of, I guess, that's where we want to get everybody to and beyond if you can and are able to.
Yep. Wonderful. I actually added another one in here. So we have 11 tips for weight loss is balanced macros, right? For hormones and things like that. And macros being fats, carbohydrates, and protein. And usually I believe I talk about this in terms of how we teach people how to squat. So bear with me for a second. When someone comes in, we say, hey, start with your feet shoulder width apart, toes slightly turned out. That's the starting point. And then based on watching them do a couple reps, we change them from there. Same thing with a nutrition plan. We get a base level based on someone's activity, age, height, weight, and then we give them, whether it's a hand method, right? So portion size, or whether it's actual calories, or whether it's a macro count. So talking about starting someone base level with their feet in the squat for nutrition, I believe it's 40% carbs, 30% fat, 30% protein. And then we adjust it from there based on someone's goals or based on body type too, right? Mesomorph, endomorph, and
ectomorph.
Thank you. So balance macros, drink more water. I don't think we have to really dig deep into that unless someone wants to tell us why that's important.
All the things.
All the things.
Just do it.
Yep.
Just trust me. No. We could.
Source.
That would be an entire episode if I talked about all the reasons you should drink water.
Yep.
Source, trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro.
Trust
it's
me.
Science.
Yay. Exercise. Avoid yo-yo dieting. Get more sleep. Protein, it's essential. You have to be in some sort of caloric deficit. Not all the time, but I mean, it's essential for energy production and loss, managing stress, balance macronutrients, drink more water. CrossFit's definition, we talked about that. And then 80-20. And the last one we have on here is trying to get 6 servings of vegetables a day, which Jaleesa, you can touch on at the very end here.
Yeah, good. I thought you were going to finish. And I was like, wait, we didn't talk about vegetables.
Let's talk about vegetables.
Favorite thing ever. Eat more vegetables. It's so simple. Vegetables are so low in calorie, but if you eat a lot of them or volume, they're really good at making us feel full and satisfied. So I always tell people, plate method, half your plate is vegetables, eat your vegetables first, then eat your proteins, then eat your carbs. Because let's face it, after you're done a nice, beautiful steak, not a lot of people want to finish their vegetables. So I always eat your vegetables first, and that will help you stay full.
Nailed it.
Let's
all finish with one quick actionable tip for everyone listening on how they can start on their weight loss journey. And if, again, we always put this out there, we're happy to help. If everyone wants a free conversation with us and to see how we might be able to help you with your nutrition, mindset, and fitness. Jaleesa, Tom, let's go ahead.
Would be to pick one of the 10, do it consistently for a week, and then pick another one of the 10 and do that consistently, not instead of, but on top of the first one, and then pick another one and then do that consistently for a week and to see if you can get through all 10.
Yeah. My tip would be, I love that, Jaleesa, is take all 10 and try to be perfect at them. Oh, I'm joking. Tom, what do you got for us?
I was going to say, pick one and do it for 2 weeks and then add something. But,
you're right.
One, either one. Basically, the concept is the same, right? If you choose one to start.
Mm-hmm.
Choose one.
I didn't have another one. We were on the same wavelength.
I think that's going to be mine too. And another thing, so we talked about ghrelin, but the other one is leptin. That's the one I was meaning to talk about too. Leptin.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe next time we could talk about the hunger hormones and stuff, but I need a week ahead to like review all
Yeah.
those, because I can't talk educatedly about them right now because I don't remember everything. So I need a little refresher before we actually dive into those.
Yeah, that's my bad. I just started throwing those out there and I knew a bit about them in my head, but I would need to dig
Yeah.
deeper as well.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone. Have a fantastic Tuesday.